my big old Bible. My mother gave me this Bible as a graduation present, and I took
Ah,
it to camp and carried it in my backpack as a camp counselor, like the world's largest, heaviest Bible. Why didn't I grab
ah,
like a smaller
right.
Bible at some point?
Although there is something nostalgic and lovely about the days when you couldn't just look it up on your phone, when you had
Yeah,
to have the book in hand.
yes. Well, and
I
this
I
camp was
don't find
like
yeah.
up in the mountains, and
Oh, yep.
yeah,
So you wouldn't have had a cell service anyway.
yeah, there's nothing. Yeah, isn't that fun? See, and now like you open these old Bibles and they're like things fall out of them, and you're like, oh, I remember that.
Yep. It's the little treasures that you'd
Yeah.
forgotten about.
Thank you note from the meeting room Sunday school class, August 19th, 2020, 2012.
Oh wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I think some of these people, a good portion of these people aren't alive anymore.
Wow.
Wow. That's crazy. Okay. Nostalgia. Uh, Today we find ourselves in Matthew chapter 20.
That's right. We're
Yeah.
we're hitting the hard stuff these days, right?
I mean, it's there. We got to deal with it, right?
That's true. I don't know. We could avoid it. Isn't that like in vogue right now? Is just avoiding what is hard? I'm fine with that.
Yeah. That always works. That never causes problems.
That's right.
Avoidance always works.
For a time, anyway.
Yeah. So Matthew chapter 20 is one of those Bible verses I think that are is notorious.
Hmm.
A little bit notorious. And so it comes with a legacy of interpretations that we should just acknowledge off the top. Um, I think it's interesting to think about it in context of the verse that actually comes right before it. So in chapter 19 ends with, but many who are first will be last, and many who are last will be
Hmm.
first. I think it's always helpful to remember that the Bible did not come preloaded with verses and chapters.
Right. Right. Right.
So, um,
Yep.
so it's helpful every once in a while to remember like these things would have read together at the time. So one solid thought. So
Right.
that's
Right. Right.
important. And I think the other thing we need to always remember is the Bible is not an economic textbook.
Yes. Yes.
So Jesus
Yeah.
is not trying to advocate for a particular economic system in
Hmm.
this parable. That's not the point. Um, so before we get all
Right.
riled up and we hear what it has to say, we should just acknowledge that Jesus was not an economics professor and he was not
Right.
advocating for a particular um, way to structure your actual
Right.
economy. Um, it's a parable.
Yep.
So what do we know about
Hmm.
parables?
Um. So interestingly enough, and now I'm gonna. Of course, the second you ask, it flies out of my head. Somebody had made a really good statement about parables, and it kind of flipped on its head some of the things that I had originally thought. We're like, oh, well, this is a. It's not like a myth, like in the Odyssey or the Iliad or something like that. They're using these images to help people understand something that they could connect to, and I feel like in some ways the parables are finding it's Jesus's way of finding connecting points
Mhm.
to that people would understand, that were contextual to what they would understand in their time, to push a broader message forward.
Mm.
Um, it's not really what I mean, but it is. Now I'm trying to figure out what it is that.
Yeah, so I think you got a lot of the details on that, right? So
Yeah.
parables are intended to flip upside down your understanding of an everyday situation. So they
Right.
should challenge you. They should be difficult. If you come away with an
Right.
easy answer from a parable, you're not doing it correctly. Um,
Right.
Jesus is
Right.
taking, yeah, everyday situations that would have been familiar to people and purposefully twisting them to reveal a
Right.
deeper inner truth about something.
Right. Right, right,
Um,
right.
so I think as we read this, we should recognize what is normal. What do we see that we would normally expect, and then what are the things that Jesus is intentionally reversing or flipping over or causing us to look at from a slightly different angle.
Right.
Because I think that's
Oh, I know one of the I'm so sorry. I know one of the things that I remembered being like struck by and thought was really important and interesting is the whole concept of, Jesus, when we struggle in understanding our faith and our biblical context, is one of the things that I heard somebody say is, Jesus asked more questions than he answered.
Mhm.
And he's storytelling in a sense, like he never offers you a point blank straight answer. Not never, but very, very rarely. So parables, there, if you really stop and think about it, the way Jesus taught was a built-in expectation
Mhm.
of you doing the work of learning. Um,
Yeah.
and I've always loved that, and I felt it very Presbyterian of Jesus to like put some ownership of learning on our plates,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that parables do that. It is not a, so how do I get rich and go to heaven? No, Jesus is never going to give you what you're looking for. Jesus is going to give you what you need, but you're going to have to do the work to figure that out.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Somebody was talking to me about a sermon they had heard, a preacher they'd heard, and they were like, they preach a lot like you, except for at the end of it, they give us a list of things we're supposed to do that week. It's like, and I didn't want to do homework. I don't like doing homework. And I was like,
Right, right. Like, okay,
which is an
well,
interesting way to interpret that. But yeah,
right.
at some point, I think you got to give the people the gift of figuring out what they want to do with the information they've just been given, right? Like
That's
it'd
right.
be really easy
Right,
for me to
right,
tell you what to do, but I think it sticks better if you have to make that leap of,
yep.
oh, well, this is what it actually means to my life. This is why it's
Right,
important.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So I just thought that was interesting.
It's funny.
So we're in chapter 20. So let's read about the first set of workers. So 1 through 5.
All right. The kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard. After he agreed with the workers to pay them a denarius, he sent them into his vineyard. Then he went out around 9 in the morning and saw others standing around in the marketplace doing nothing. He said to them, "You also go into the vineyard, and I'll pay you whatever is right." And they went.
Okay. What do we hear so far in this story?
Well, we've got two different groups of people starting at two different times. I like, it almost immediately, if you're paying attention, again, you notice that the people who are hired first are given an amount. The people who are hired second are not given an amount. They are given almost like a philosophical answer to what they'll get paid.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
it's a promise. I'll pay
yeah,
you what's right. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. How do you think that would work if you tried to hire somebody that way?
Yeah, I feel like that would not fly today. Like, what do you mean, what is right? Like,
Yeah.
your concept of right and my concept of right might not sync up. So, no, I'm not doing that work for you until I have a dollar amount.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. I need a
And
guarantee.
50% in advance. Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so the
Mm,
kingdom of heaven here is a phrase that Matthew uses. It only appears in Matthew. And he uses it all the time. It's like the Son of God, Son of Man language is
ah,
different depending on which gospel you're in. Matthew always talks about the kingdom of heaven is like. That's what every parable pretty much begins that way.
mm-hmm.
And so, who is the landowner?
I don't want to answer this because I'm going to get it wrong.
There is no right. It's a parable, right? What are some
Ah!
possibilities? What do you think?
I mean, I feel like the obvious answer would be God.
Yeah. Yeah.
In certain respects, the landowner is God. Hmm,
Yeah, so the
maybe.
landowner, yeah, almost always the figure of authority in the scripture
Right.
is God, is meant to be God.
Presumed to be at any rate,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Um, and so the kingdom of heaven, this is like the community of God. So the
Yeah.
kingdom of heaven is not meant to be like what happens when you die. It's really who's included in the community of God altogether. So it's both here and now
Mm,
and then and when kind of
gotcha.
it,
Yeah.
Jesus doesn't really offer the distinction that we often place between life and death. He's
Hmm.
usually both, like he's usually talking on both planes at the same time. Because that's kind of the point of Jesus to me. I think it's like Jesus transcends both time and space. He's both
Right.
here and present and eternal and there at the same time. So it's kind of like
Right.
a
Huh. Yeah.
wormhole, you know.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah. So he's setting it up. The kingdom of God is like the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who goes
Hmm.
out looking for the people in the vineyard, which I think is an interesting
Right.
way to is an interesting way to think about this because um, the people are not coming to the landowner asking for work.
Right. Landowner goes seeking. Hmm.
Yeah. And so,
Yeah.
and I'm wondering, is this like, in a lot of communities where there'll be day laborers who will be waiting on a known
Hmm.
corner or, um,
Right.
in the parking lot at Home Depot or whatever, waiting
Yep.
for somebody to come by and say, I have a day job for you. Is that the
Right.
situation that we're in here?
Right.
And I don't know. I've never hired a day laborer, so I don't know how that contract works. Like, how do you go about securing a day laborer?
Right. As far as well, and that's an interesting question. I have a feeling a lot of it is just trust,
Mhm.
perhaps,
Right.
and a generally agreed upon kind of under the table payment. Like there's no formalized process to this. It's just a hey, you need work. Hey, I've got work. Let's do this thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's what I wonder. Like,
yeah,
is there an established contract at the beginning of the day when, like today, like right now, like if you went to Home Depot and hired a day laborer for something, is it
right,
like when you reserve an Uber, book an Uber, and you've got some sort of like they tell you how much it's going to cost at the beginning?
right,
Is there how
right.
much leverage does the day laborer have, I guess?
That's a really good question. So my commentary in my book, I'm reading from the CEB, what is this? The Storyteller's Bible. The commentary is really interesting. In the first century, many people who were poor lived in Palestine without regular employment. From one day to the next, they worked at different jobs. To secure employment for the day, they would gather before sunrise in the village marketplace where overseers
Mm.
would come and hire them for the day. The day's pay was a denarius, a subsistence wage that provided basic food and clothing. And a landowner would send an overseer to the marketplace to hire the workers. Then, when the landowner personally hires the workers, the listeners are assured of the trustworthiness of the message given to the workers. That's a
Ri-
really interesting. So interesting. I don't know.
So is it's
The fact that, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say the fact that it's the landowner. If that's an
Right.
unusual
Exactly.
system.
Right. That that's not the standard issue practice. So there's something to be said for they would have known this concept of day labor as like this is how we go about doing our lives. But the fact that the landowner is the one who comes for them, not the landowner's foreman or whatever,
Mm.
makes it significantly different. So that changes the narrative on the I'll pay you whatever is right. Well, I guess you have a little bit more trust in whatever is right because of that fact.
Right, when it's the
I don't
landowner
know.
himself who's saying,
Right.
I'm gonna pay you what is right. And I guess when you're in a position of vulnerability like that, when you just need to work to live, like
Right.
you literally paycheck to
Right.
paycheck. You're going from day to day to get money to eat with.
That day's work is giving you that day's food. Yeah.
Right, then you have to take more risks. Like you can't
Right.
afford to
Right.
say, well, no, I'm good for today. But like if
Right.
somebody comes
You
on
don't have
along,
negotiation power in that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And so I'm wondering as a metaphor for God and
Yeah.
God's kingdom, um, how does that help us to understand our relationship with God a little bit better, I think.
Hmm. I mean, in a way, if we think about like if we are able to set aside it it strips away that self-reliance
Mhm.
trap in a lot of ways, right? If we put ourselves in this narrative of sorts and think about the vulnerability of our existence outside of God's grace, we can think about this metaphor of the vulnerability of someone who is wholly reliant on a landowner to come and give them a job to do so that they can continue to live and survive. Well, in the same way, I mean, we are reliant upon God's grace to live and survive if we really think about it, are we not? I
Mhm.
mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that's one of the things, one of the Presbyterian doctrines that I've come to appreciate that I didn't used to like so much is this idea of, I mean, the words that people use about it is total depravity,
Yeah, yeah. I love a
which,
depravity.
yeah, which I always like I was sort of under the impression that meant like you're totally awful and bad and like you're rotten to the core kind of
Right.
thing. But
Right.
I think what
Right.
it really means is like given a choice,
Mm-hmm.
if it's up to us, we're not going
Yeah.
to choose the path of
We're gonna make the
salvation.
wrong one.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. Like we're
Yeah.
gonna pick the more tempting path of earthly promises and earthly
Right.
wealth and all that stuff. And so it's that doctrine challenges to us to remember that given the opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
we would not be able to save ourselves. And so this opening
Right.
parable reminds us like we're not able to save ourselves. We can't do that. We are not ever, our hearts will
Right.
not
Right.
make that
Yep.
shift. And so this parable opening reminds me of that in that like we have to uh, we're just hanging out in the marketplace and God's the one who comes along and says,
Yeah.
"Yeah, you. I'm going to pay you."
Yep.
And I'm choosing
Yeah.
you. Um and just how that shifts how
Yeah.
we think about our responsibility of working that day, I guess.
Mm. Well, and it moves that I mean, I'm like, it really it goes. I don't know why it clicked into me from the standpoint of the when we talked about the works, the kind of works focused salvation, or like your motivation behind why you do good things or whatnot. Is it out of fear and concern over your own skin, or is it out of gratitude for knowing that you don't have anything otherwise, and therefore you should probably be grateful and do the right things for this landowner who just came and picked you.
Mm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
I think we need to hold on to that idea because we're going to find out in a little bit
yeah.
how they responded.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So then the landowner goes out and gets a second batch of folks
Mm-hmm.
who are standing around in the marketplace. It says, "I'll pay you whatever's right." So they went. So
Right.
I'm curious, like the second group, there would have been like, did they just show up late? Like, why were they not picked in the first place?
Right. That's a good question.
I mean, it's some imaginings. We obviously don't know, but
Right. Right. I also like in my translation saw others standing around the marketplace doing nothing. Like that seems pretty specific and kind of presuming laziness, or I don't even know, like why add in doing
yeah.
nothing. I'm curious about that. I don't know. Maybe it has nothing to do with anything, but
Yeah, I mean, there's all these possibilities, right? Why would somebody have not been chosen in
right.
the first round? Was there
Yep.
something different or wrong about them? Was it just that they didn't show up
Yeah.
in time? Is it that
Right.
um, they just didn't have enough work to begin with? But why wouldn't the landowner have known how much work he needed to have done?
Right. Right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That is curious.
What would you like to think? What would be the imagining that you think?
Hmm. Gosh, I don't know. I have to like I think I'm overthinking thinking, so I get a little stuck. But I guess in a perfect world, I would think in a perfect world, if I'm thinking about like God and the gathering in, it makes me think that like people arrive at
Mm.
different times to come and seek work in this marketplace, and so this landowner finds the first group and brings them in and then goes back because he knows more will be arriving to gather in, and he goes back and gathers again and
Mm.
gathers again and gathers again. um Maybe that's naive, but I would love to think that it's that people are arriving at different times as they are able, and the landowner consistently goes back to continue to gather,
Oh,
to
yeah.
offer this work.
Yeah, I like that idea that the landowner knows that there's going to be a fresh crop. There's a new
Right,
bunch that are showing
right,
up, um, and so that's why he goes back out, was to just spread the generosity of what he has. Um,
right,
yeah, I know that this is like there's no way to know this, right? But that's what the parable invites us to
right,
do, is to imagine, is to look
right,
past just what's presented and go, well, what if it's this reason? How does that change what we
right,
understand?
right.
And what is, so there's always the
Well, it's
imagining I
every
like to
three
do.
hours. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
like every 3 hours he goes out. Every 3 hours he turns around and goes back and invites more. And for some reason, there's a little bit of a consistency to me about that. It's not just that, oh, I didn't realize I needed more workers and I got that first round, so I need to go back.
Yeah.
He went back because they state the time, right? At
Hmm.
9 and at noon and at 3. Well, I guess then the last one is at 5. So it's not every 3 hours, but it's the fact that it is consistently reminded of like at specific segments of time, the landowner keeps going back.
Hmm.
I don't know. I feel like there's something significant to that. There's
Yeah.
a
And this,
persistence, maybe persistence
oh,
of
yeah.
going.
Yeah.
Um,
God continues to reach out. God continues to go
yeah,
back and to
yeah.
choose and to pick. Yeah. So sometimes this parable is interpreted through the lens of what's called dispensationalism.
Mm.
Have you ever heard of that term?
I have heard of the term. I couldn't tell you that I can define it right
Yeah.
now, but
Yeah. So
I'll let you define it, Liz.
there there are folks who believe in what are called the dispensations of grace. And so essentially what they believe that there are time periods
Ah,
during which God had revealed a portion of God's self. And so there have
okay.
been seven dispensations so far. So there was a time period. There was the Noah dispensation, and then there was the Moses dispensation. And so there's like these marked time
Ah,
periods where a different part of God is revealed, a new aspect of God's grace is revealed, and a new group of people are welcomed
huh.
into the community of God. And so I
Okay.
believe they say that there have been seven dispensations of God's revelation.
Okay.
And the idea is that when God is done, when God reaches the completion of the dispensations, that's when Jesus will come again.
Oh,
And
okay.
so, yeah, and so there's an apocalyptic
Uh-huh.
end of times vibe to it, which is why
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
not a mainstream situation, because it's people are left in and out depending on which dispensation you're in. So that's sort of how they would
Okay.
argue this, is like this is evidence that God choose a small group at one time and then got a little bit bigger, got a little bit bigger, and got invited a little bit more people in every time.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Which you can see how you would get there from here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you know what? How about if you were sick that day?
Right.
That
Yeah.
stinks.
Yeah. Exactly.
God must not love you as much as God loves me. That's the answer.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's disproven by verse
Mm,
6 and 7, where Jesus says, about the 11th hour, he went out and found still others waiting for work. He asked them, why have you
right.
been standing here all day long, doing nothing? And they
Hmm.
said, because no one has hired us, they answered. He said to them, you also go and work in my vineyard. So can you imagine what it must feel like to sit around all day,
Yep.
needing to work in order to feed your family and not having anybody pick you?
Yeah. That's a whole different type of feeling excluded.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I think
Mm.
we've all been in gym class, like had that experience of being asked to
Yeah.
get picked in gym class, but this is like a whole nother level
Yep.
of um,
Yeah.
surely desperation. I can't imagine like what it must have felt like to stand there all day and nobody picked you.
Yeah.
And you're
And go
standing there
back
wondering
again
like,
and
yeah,
do it again. And
yeah.
what kind of eternal hope and optimism is required in order to do that too?
Or desperation. Like
Yeah,
there's
that's
no
true.
other
That
option.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
So they've been
Hmm.
standing around waiting all day hoping somebody would hire them. You'd have to think by the end of the day they realize that they're not going to make enough to eat that day. Because
Hmm.
in the traditional model of scale, you get paid for the hours you work,
Right.
right?
Yep. Yep.
And so I
Hmm.
wonder even why they went.
And why they stayed so long? That would be the other question. Like,
Yeah.
why did they stay so long?
Yeah, why were they still standing around the marketplace? I mean, I guess they had nothing else to do, but
True. That's true.
yeah.
Right. Huh.
Well, and
Okay.
I also admire the work the landowner does to offer the dignity of work to folks.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think we
Right.
underestimate how much self-esteem and self-worth and um,
Yep.
dignity and self-respect is
Hmm.
given to folks by um, the the honor of doing work. I don't know, the honor is not the right
Yeah.
word, but like when you complete a
But
task,
yeah. And
it feels
there
good.
is so we had there was a man, the church I grew up in was the best example, to me, the best example of Christianity. It was a church, it was a PCUSA church in Augusta, Georgia. It was in downtown. It was dying when we joined it. More people came in off the streets to either get out of the rain or get out of the heat or whatever and sat in and worship. And so I grew up in this very wonderfully diverse environment. I think it helped teach me to not be afraid of people in general
Mm,
because there were scary looking people who weren't scary. They just looked different. Anyway, there was one particular gentleman. His name was Reese, and he just befriended our family overwhelmingly so. Reese couldn't stay away from drugs. He just couldn't do it. But he had this phenomenal work ethic, and he and my dad became very close friends. My dad, Reese would call my dad every time he got arrested for something, and my dad would go and get him out of jail. But anytime before Reese would like let my dad get him out of jail, there was always the agreement that Reese was going to work off the bail money, and
mm.
he wouldn't agree to it unless he was allowed to work off the bail money. And like he wanted, it was just this beautiful, it was this recognition that my father was able to give to say, yeah, no, I'm going to let you maintain the dignity and integrity of owning the consequences of your actions by giving you the opportunity to work. And there was a full mutual relationship amongst all of us. Reese was no less because of his life circumstances.
Hmm.
Um, and he valued the fact that he got to work and provide that gratitude in that way. So yeah, there is a huge amount of integrity around giving somebody the gift of working. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that story. That's great. I think
Yeah.
um, so often we try to formalize all these processes, and sometimes it's just like,
Yeah.
hey, come help me clean off. Like
Yeah.
my kids, my youngest is in that age where he wants to help all the time.
Uh-huh.
And there's not always things he can help with, but man, does he
Yep.
love like sweeping the floor if you give him a
That's
broom,
right. Yep.
And it's just that like I'm big enough, I'm a big kid, then I can help.
Yep.
And just the offer of giving people space to like help and to
That's
be
right. Yeah.
important to someone and meaningful to someone. I think that's one of the big
Absolutely.
struggles folks have when they get older is that they get to an age where they can't do anything.
Yep.
And so then they don't feel like they have any value or worth anymore. And
Right.
that's not the case. It's just that when you can't contribute, there is something
Yeah.
in us that sort
There's a
of,
loss.
yeah, suffers a loss. And so I'm always
That's
like trying to figure out how
yeah.
older folks can contribute. What are ways that
Right.
this purchase, like what can this person do
Right.
still? So if it's
Yep.
just put stamps on a piece of paper,
That's right. That's a
yeah,
value added to the
yeah,
world. Yeah.
yeah. Because I think that's what people want more than anything is to feel valued and like somebody
Yeah.
notices them and sees them. And so even if they don't get paid anything, the last set of workers still go because somebody finally came along and
Right.
said, "Yeah, I want you."
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so
Yep.
verse 8. When the evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, "Call the workers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last ones hired and going on to the first," which is the echo of that, the first shall be last and the last shall be first, we heard
Yeah.
at the very beginning. The workers who were hired about the 11th hour came, and each received a denarius. So when those came who were hired first, they expected to receive more, but each one of them also received a denarius. When they received it, they began to grumble against the landowner. "These men who were hired last worked only 1 hour," they said, "and you have made them equal to us who have borne the burden of the work and the heat of the day."
Hmm. Yep. Classic human response.
Right. It's hard to argue with it. It really is hard to argue with it because it's like, yeah, you
Uh-huh.
did,
Uh-huh.
I was out here sweating all day. You know, I earned
And
something. Yeah.
I love the fact that, the whole last shall be first and first shall be last. To me, there is no accident in the landowner paying the last people first, because otherwise, how would the first workers ever have known? They wouldn't have
Mhm.
seen what the last people got paid. It would have been super easy for the landowner to have paid everybody the same, but do it from first to last, because then the first people get their money and they go. The
Yeah.
next people get their money and they go. So you don't have to create a scuffle over, like, you could have done it in secret and it would
Yeah.
have like, cool, look, I did my good deed, but I didn't have to engage in the fairness, unfairness of it. Like, I love that. I love the fact that there's a very intentionality in ruffling the feathers. Like, doesn't God do that all the time? Like, ruffles our feathers on purpose.
Yeah, you're right. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, he very intentionally pays the last
Yeah.
workers first. And he also has the foreman do it. So the landowner hires them, but it's the foreman who
Yeah.
pays them.
Yeah.
And
Interesting. Hmm.
but yeah, and they do it in reverse order, which is making a point out of I'm paying everybody the same, no matter when
Yeah.
you showed up. Which I mean,
Yep.
honestly, like if I were the workers in the first part of
Yeah.
I would be up. I mean, they have every right to
Like,
be upset.
you got to be kidding me. Yeah. 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 Yep.
So what's the point God is making here?
Hmm. I mean, it's a real knock to our whatever it is, this deep human instinct that I watched a documentary once that talked about the KKK, the origins of the KKK, and
Mm,
this reality that these incredibly poor, ill-educated white men in the deep South were starting to see Black people getting more and more rights and liberties afforded to them. And so all of a sudden, there was nobody below them. There
mm,
was nobody beneath them. It's like we have this instinct that we need to know that we are better than somebody. I need to be better than somebody. Otherwise, how do I know that I'm any good at all?
mm,
And this just harkens that to me of, if I work really hard, but I'm not better than that person who only worked a tiny little bit, then how do I know what my worth is? How
mm,
do I need someone else to quantify my worth for me. And when you do it like this, then all of a sudden I don't know how to stand on a ground of fair and unfair. I don't understand anything, and everything is thrown up into chaos, because now all of a sudden the only thing that's there is this kindness and this grace that's extended to everybody. So how do I know what's right and wrong? How do I know what's good and bad? How do I know who's in and who's out? Like, I don't know. It just it smacks to me of a lot of the conversations that I hear in like religious circles around a lot of the hot topic items. Is, well, if we allow this, then what's to stop us from going down this way or that way? And it's this real, like, I need rules in order to know how to exist.
mm.
And rules mean fair, and fair means equal. And I can't understand anything else.
Yeah.
Um, you
Yeah.
know?
There is we want the world to make sense, I think. We want
Yeah.
the world to have order. And
Yep.
A to equal B and B to equal C, and therefore A equals C, and everything makes
Yeah,
logical, ordered sense. Um,
right,
and everything's fair. You get what you deserve.
right.
And
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, very intentionally, I think in this parable, Jesus is telling us that we do not get,
yeah,
like, God's grace isn't like fair and equal are not the same.
right.
They're not the
Yes,
same thing.
exactly.
Um,
I spent a lot of time talking to my kids about that. That
yeah,
is something that's said in our house a lot. Fair and equal are not the same.
yeah.
We shoot for fairness. We do not shoot for equalness.
Yeah, and so I wonder, like, how do you nuance that? Because I think for me, fairness and equalness are not. I was explaining this to my kids the other day. Like, I think, and maybe this is just the family I grew up in, but I was always taught that you can't guarantee outcome,
Right,
right? Like, you can't
right,
promise everybody the same outcome, but
right.
we should strive to give everybody the same opportunity,
Yes.
was what I was always taught.
Yeah,
And that fairness is about equal access and equal opportunity. And then what you
yeah.
do with that equal opportunity and equal fairness, equal access to resources is up to you. Like you're responsible for the
Right,
outcome. Um,
right,
and so is that how you
right.
see fairness and equality going together, or is that different?
No, I think that's it. There's oh gosh, there's like a cartoon that somebody drew once that I thought was so smart that was trying to show the difference between like equal and equity.
Mm,
And it's that same concept of it was I'm going to butcher it and somebody's going to have to tell me how I got it wrong. But it's like three people of different heights trying to look over a fence to watch a baseball game. And there was um, I don't even remember how, but basically it was about equity is not not giving somebody an extra pass into the it's giving somebody a box to stand on so that they have the same view
mm.
as the tall person who's standing next to them. I'm butchering this. It would have been so great if I could actually remember the cartoon. But yeah, there's this idea that because I'm sitting here thinking about the everyone walks home with a denarius at the end of the day, no matter how much they worked. And I think everyone started the day and ended the day with an empty belly that needed to get filled with food. So the equity piece, the opportunity moment is that I gave you the opportunity to work. I didn't say how long it was. I gave you the opportunity to work. You worked. And now
Hmm.
I am giving you what you need to fill yourself for this evening. Like it's not the landowner didn't go out and be like, look at all you hungry people. I'm just going to give you some money. I'm just
Right.
going to go give you some money so you can have food. Every single person in this story worked for what they received. Did they work the same number of hours? No. Did they do it in the way that the other one did it? No. But did they all work? Yes. I don't
Well, I think,
know. I don't
yeah. No, I think but it's almost to me like this parable is flipping it on its head because there is a guaranteed, everybody has the same outcome no matter how much effort they put into it,
right, right,
right?
right, right.
And I think that's what we struggle with because that is no
Yes.
way you cannot operate a business that way, right? You can't
Right.
pay your employees the same wage no matter how much work they do or how well they do their work. You could not, that's not a
Right.
sustainable business model. You just can't
Right.
operate that way. And
Right.
so our brains, I think, have a hard time switching off that like
Yeah.
deep sense of unfairness that it is in our hearts. Because I think for us, the fair response we would think would be everybody gets paid equal to the amount of work that they did. Like that's the
Right.
fairest way to treat people.
Right.
And so this almost seems to be saying the opposite, that really the fairest way to treat people or the landowner chooses to treat people unfairly
Uh-huh. Yeah.
because it's not an
Because
equal distribution based on anything other than the landowner's generosity.
right. Right.
And that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. No, no, it does not. Yeah.
And I think that's what makes us uncomfortable.
Hmm.
about this is there's no scheme, there's no plan, there's no pay scale, there's nothing, there's no
Right.
um, it feels unfair to us, I think, that the workers do not get the same promise. They don't get the same
Hmm.
promise at the beginning. They are not required to do the same amount of things, and yet at the end, they all get the same reward. And I think that
Right.
bothers us.
Well, and it's funny, like I was looking at the next verse where the landowner says, "Friend, I did you no wrong." And
Mhm.
he's right. He's like, "Didn't I agree to pay you a denarian?" Like, I agreed to that. And this is maybe this is the I love this as like a parent moment. A good parenting moment of I didn't I didn't need to negotiate with you what I was doing with anyone else. I offered you this and you agreed to it and here's where we are. And that's good. That's great. Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't ugh. I'm struggling to put my thoughts down into words because I love that. I love the unfairness of this
Mm.
story. I don't want to live the unfairness of this story. I sure as
Right.
heck don't want to be a worker in this story
Yeah.
because it makes us it goes back to that whole concept of productivity is a disease
Mm.
that we as a human race seem to measure value and worth by. It's the busyness there. I read this great article about, mom, when you ask somebody how you doing, oh, I'm just so busy, it's a badge of honor rather
Mhm.
than a problem to work with. Is that we have this disease of busyness that it's only if you are super busy or super over whatever that you're valuable. So it does feel terribly unfair to say, well, that dude only worked for an hour, but I was busy all day. I had this burden cast upon me of busyness and I lived up to it. And yet I'm just getting this thing that I don't know. I
Well, I
think
think
I'm all
part of
over
it
the
too
place
is
here.
like we all love the romantic notion of a deathbed confession and somebody being, like
Mm.
at the last minute, like, oh, I want to be saved or whatever. There's a story about a philosopher who didn't want to get baptized until like an hour before he died because he knew, like, he thought in his head that if he got baptized,
Oh,
um,
he had to change.
he had to change and he didn't want to. Like,
Yeah.
and I think it comes back down to like that whole idea of um, fairness and equality in God's kingdom. And what we ultimately want,
Mm.
I think, deep down in our hearts, is for people to get in the afterlife what they deserve for what they did on
Mm-hmm.
earth. And it's one of the reasons like we struggle with folks who we love the idea of people having to go before St. Peter and account for everything that they've done in their life. And then
Right.
Peter giving them like, well, you now have 15 years in purgatory and you get to go to heaven because you've worked off your sins.
Right.
Like there's a part of us in our hearts that really likes that model of salvation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And to hear God say, well, like, no, I am the one who gets to decide,
Right.
and everybody who showed up in my vineyard gets to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I,
and then it comes back to a control issue too, right? We don't get to
Mhm.
control this. This is in God's hands. Fairness, equity, all of it is up to God. It's not up to us. And that probably bothers us a whole lot too, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think it's because we all want to put ourselves in the role of the first worker. Like we all think
Uh-huh.
we're
Of
the
course.
ones who are being aggrieved, right? Where all of us are
Yep.
like, well, that's not fair that they get that. And I was
Right.
here working all the time and they get that. And I wonder how we would hear this parable differently if we were the last set of workers.
Right. Well, and if we pay attention, like you were just saying, if we looked at it from the lens of because it sounds very clear in this, the last workers, it says nobody hired us. So clearly they didn't just roll out of bed 2 hours before the end of
Hmm.
the workday and meander over. They watched, it's that desperation of they watched everyone else getting picked first.
Yeah.
So there's some there's some grace to be had even built into the story, I think. Even,
Mhm.
there's a little bit of grace if you just stop long enough. to not focus on the absolute unfairness of it. That yeah, I don't.
Well, I think that's an interesting idea of like it wasn't the workers' fault that they didn't
Right,
work a full day. Like they showed up at the marketplace the same time everybody else did. Like they were there. They wanted to work. If it
right,
was up to them, they would have worked a full day. And so
right.
I do like that's an interesting idea to think about who's really the responsible party here for the reason that
Mm-hmm.
they weren't working. And it's not the
Right,
workers. Like they did everything they could
right,
do. Um,
right,
Ultimately it's up to the person who's hiring to make
right,
that decision.
right.
There is a
Although, does that also let me off the hook, though? I just like it hit
Mhm.
me the second you were talking about that. Does that let me off the hook? Because that, in a way, like I'm trying to make it more fair, aren't I? By saying, oh, well, but they were, but. It's like,
Right.
I want it to be fair, and that's a justifiable way for me to make it a little more fair. I don't know. Like, is that letting me off the
There's a
hook too?
rationalizing there. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
right?
It's not like they were watching
I mean,
TV.
I
They were
like
out,
it.
yeah, they were out in the heat of the day in the
That's
marketplace waiting
right.
to be, yeah. Yeah. So it is a little bit of like, well, actually they did work just as hard. It's just that they weren't, yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I get that.
So
Yeah.
shame on me. I caught myself in that moment. There we
Yeah.
go.
No, I get it
But
though. There, so there is a doctrine in the Roman Catholic Church that talks about God's extreme preference for the poor. So
mm,
that God always is on the side of the most vulnerable in the situation, that God is always um, giving more grace, more uh,
yeah,
love, more extra to the people who are the most poor or the most brokenhearted or the most and this is where that idea comes from, that God's really on the
yeah.
side of the poor. And I think we only get a sense that it's unfair if we're not the poor ones. You
Right.
know?
Right. Yep.
And I think that's one of the
Yeah.
things that makes us upset about this parable is it forces us to ask ourselves um, about how we're contributing to an unfair
Absolutely.
culture that values
Yeah.
people differently.
Mm-hmm.
And if
And
we
it goes
find
back a
ourselves,
little bit to that,
yeah,
yeah,
uh,
like I'm less special
mhm,
if I'm not the one being focused on the most. It's back to that whole like who's beneath me. I need somebody lesser than
yeah,
in order to feel special and valuable.
yeah,
And
exactly.
when you pay everybody, then there's nobody lesser than.
Yeah. Well, if
And I
everybody's
don't know
in,
what
who's
to do
out?
with it. Right, right. And we
And how,
know this cognitively, but emotionally,
mhm,
I don't know why humanity seems to have set itself up to need othering in order to know self. Like,
yeah.
I need to know what is other so that I can know what is me. I don't know.
Well, I mean, there is a developmental stage where they talk about self-differentiation, that
Mm-hmm.
the work of childhood is if you've had a successful childhood, um, you have done the work of self-differentiation, which means that you know that you are not your parents, and you know
Right,
you're not your friends, and you know who
right.
you are, and you're able to stay centered in that self-identity, that you're differentiated enough that you don't
Yep.
need other people to tell you who you are
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of us ever complain. I don't know that anybody's ever had a
Right.
successful like
Full on, like, it's that self actualization
yeah.
of whatever other faith traditions. Yeah. We don't actually fully differentiate. Yeah. True.
Yeah. And so that's what causes us, I think, to look at other people and sort of
Yeah.
judge ourselves based off of what do they have.
Yeah.
And
And good Lord, had social media existed for this parable, it could have been 10 times worse,
oh
right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
ah, we've
Well,
only made it harder to accept the grace for other people.
I was talking to my hairdresser. She got my hair done last week and got my hair cut and all that. And I was talking to her, and she was like, "You just have the type of hair that everybody wants. Like it's
Mm,
so thick and full, and like everybody's always
right.
coming in here saying, "How can you make my hair look thicker?" And
Mm-hmm.
it sort of put me on my back foot a little bit because I'm always coming in and complaining about how I have so much hair and I don't know what to do with it. Like,
Yeah. Yep. 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 Yep.
it just does what it does, right? I can't like it's up there, it's thick, it's
Yep.
there's too much. I have too much hair. Um,
Right.
and so like and I didn't
Yep.
prompt it. I wasn't like I was talking complaining that day about my hair, but she talked
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
um how everybody else comes in and wants what I have. And I
Right.
came in and wanted what somebody else like didn't want what I have, right?
Absolutely.
And this parable challenges us on that level too of like
That's
what we
right.
really want is to for everybody not to have the same thing. I want what I have, or I
Right.
want what they have.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep. The grass is really always greener, isn't it?
yeah. And so it
Even
just
when I, yeah, sorry.
no, go ahead.
It's funny. The grass is always greener. Even when I agreed to and started my day feeling great about a denarian at the end.
Yeah,
Like I started my day agreeing to that. But all of a sudden that's not enough anymore because of that guy over there.
yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
So he answered them, Friend, I am not being unfair to you. Didn't you agree to work for a denarius? Take your
Mm-hmm.
pay and go. I want to give the man who was hired the last the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with my own money? Or are you envious because
Yep.
I am generous? So the last will be first and the first will be last.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think
And there we go.
that is the part of Jesus's doctrine that we hate the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we don't like this idea of the last being first. Like,
No.
it's the same problem we
Right.
have with the prodigal son. Like, I think if we're honest with ourselves in
Mm,
the prodigal son narrative, we think the landowner is deeply unfair.
right. We're the other son who's like, wait a minute. I stuck around and I worked, and where's my ticker tape parade? And what cow are you slaughtering for me?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, yeah. Well, it reminds me too of Job, where
Mm,
Job is standing around. Job never really complains. His friends do a lot of complaining for him. His friends try to goad him into complaining. Everybody around him is like, why aren't you complaining? And so eventually Job does go to God and is like, well, what did I do to deserve this punishment? It's
yeah.
almost the reverse of this parable. What did I do
Yep.
to deserve all of these terrible things that have happened to me? And God answers out of the whirlwind and says, you didn't do anything.
Yep.
Like, but I'm God, and where were you when I made Earth, and where were you when I put the creation
Yeah.
into order, and I get to do whatever I want with my creation. That's how it works, and it's sort of like, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's funny to you when you use that term deserve. That's what we get caught on, isn't it? Because we either blame God for thinking that we deserve more than we have received, but we also like to blame God on the flip side when we feel like we didn't deserve what has happened to us.
Mm,
Like all of this ownership on God, like our deserving or not deserving of something,
yeah,
when really it has nothing to do with our deserving or not deserving. It has everything to do with God's grace, which
yeah,
is a thing we can't understand because we live in this transactional world.
and we can't do anything to earn it. I think that's the like we
Right.
cannot. There's nothing for us to do
Yeah.
to say, well, now I get it, and that and I that thing with God, like with Job being like, let's remember who's in charge, really.
Right.
Like
Right.
we like to think that we are the ones who are in charge and that we get to
Yep.
decide what happens to us and to other people. And
Yep.
God continually in these stories reminds us that no, like we're
Actually.
just as
Right.
susceptible,
Actually.
yeah, to the whims of God
And
and the whims of nature and